welcome to Carrie Buys Houses, and today we are continuing with our 5-part series on the top 5 mistakes to avoid when buying and selling a piece of property. So today we are in the renovation to getting it under contract phase, which is basically finding a buyer.
Right, yeah, last week that's what we talked about, was how to make sure you get your renovation done correctly, on budget, and on time.
Yes. Now, I know when I first started, I remember the very first deal I did, and I was in the coaching program, and I reached out to you, and I said, renovation's done, hard part is complete. And I thought I was going to just hire a realtor, sit back, and let the money roll in, but that's not the case. You don't just sit back and let things happen. You have to take action.
So you thought you were going to write a book, I bet, Pina Coladas and Profit.
Well, I thought the hard part is over. I acquired it, I renovated it, now it's the realtor's job.
Right, so think about it really, Carrie, as 180 degrees.
Right.
We get the property, and we get our renovation done. We're only halfway there.
Yes, you can't sit up at the top of a roller coaster. You got to come down.
That's right, because that's where the bank is, where you're going to deposit the check.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So let's talk about the top 5 mistakes to avoid when you are finding a buyer.
Okay, well, when I want to find a buyer, the first thing I have to know is that I don't want to lose a buyer for something stupid. Mm-hmm. And why? Because I've actually done that in my early days as an investor. So the first thing we have to do is make sure that the property is really ready, which means you've got to have curb appeal and you've got to have staging. Now, curb appeal means when I pull up, you know, in the car with my wife and she looks out the window, is she going to say, let's go, in terms of going into the house, or let's go? I don't even want to take a look. And what does that mean? So staging is on the inside. Curb appeal is really on the outside. So what's the condition of the lawn, the shrubbery? Is all the debris, all the construction debris removed? You know, we talked about a house just the other day. You went over and looked, oh my God, there's a pile of sand.
Yeah, there's concrete in the front yard, which I was unaware of.
Right, now that house wasn't yet ready for showing.
Not yet.
But it's one of those things that you might just think it's ready, and we've had a lot of houses where we went to send our staging folks, and the house wasn't ready.
Right.
So number one, it's got to be ready. You've got to have good curb appeal. The house should be attractive. You know, stand in front of your own house and look at it. Is there any last minute things that need to be done? Some shrubs trimmed,
grass cut,
plants, edging, those kinds of things. Stains in the driveway, well, you may have to paint, you know, you can paint concrete. And it can make a huge difference for a very small expense.
One of the things I always notice at the end is the screens in the windows, and you don't necessarily see them right away when you first acquire the house and grass is overgrown, but when you've got a nice lawn, everything looks great, and you've got bad screens in the front of the house,
they're
we
very
take those
dingy
off.
looking. Yeah,
Yes.
put them in the garage, put them in the attic, so that they're there for the new buyer.
Right.
But there's nothing nicer than a clean window. And also from the inside looking out, it's also a big benefit. So that's the curb appeal side. The other part is staging, and staging means many things to different people. And on a high-end house, we'll actually go to the trouble of putting furniture in it. But for me, that's, you know, a house $400,000 and up in our market. For stuff below $400,000, we normally stage kitchens, bathrooms, and we'll put some plants around. And so what do you do in a kitchen? Well, you simply put some kitchen towels in there. You may put some oven mitts. We like to use a cookbook open to a nice colorful dish on a stand. I like to put
smelly cookie potpourris in the kitchen because it makes it smell like, oh, this is where I could cook.
Right, and you know, the other thing that my wife loves to do is she uses a charger, which is like one of those things you put under a plate normally. And she's got a bunch of gold ones that she picked up somewhere on sale for probably 99 cents a piece. And you put 2 wine glasses and an empty wine bottle.
Because it'll be gone if you don't leave it empty.
Right. And normally we'll use a bottle from a red wine because that's the dark green bottles. And so, you know, that just gives people the image of, wow, I could come home, have a glass of wine in my, you know, beautiful new home.
Not a lot of buyers visualize things very well. Right. So you need to create that vision for them through your staging.
Yeah, and likewise in the bathrooms, you know, a shower curtain is a great idea. Maybe a couple of nice towels, you complementary colors. We'll use a dark towel and then a light hand towel in front of it. Sometimes she'll use this, what do they call it, raffia, I think it is, that straw-like stuff.
Yeah, use a twine.
Yep. And kind of tie up the towels.
Yep. Toilet seat down.
Toilet seat down, but no toilet seat cover and no floor mats.
Yeah, this isn't Grandma's house.
No. So a nice shower curtain, and usually open so you can see the bathroom tile.
Yep.
You don't want it to disguise, but you want it to have a finished look to it.
Yep. And we go into more detail, guys. I did a staging video months back when we first started these videos. So if you want to go into detail on staging, we actually have a staging video in our episodes.
Now that the house is ready, we have to let the world know. And there's a lot of different ways to let the world know. Social media has become huge. Before you even list it, it might be a good idea to throw some pictures out on Facebook and let the world know. We've also done what we call a neighborhood mailing. Because if I can sell that house, let's say it's a $200,000 house, and I don't have to list it,
you're going to save.
Well, I'm going to save, anywhere between $6,000 and $12,000. And we'll talk a little bit about the commission side of things later. But part of letting the world know is simply getting the word out as far and wide and as quickly as you can once it's ready. Okay? If you recall, in our last session, I think we talked about putting together a VIP buyers list.
Yes.
We don't show anybody a house that's not ready.
Right.
But we will take down their names. So you also want to make sure you let those VIP buyers know that you're going to hold a special open house just for them, whatever the first weekend day is that's coming up, from 10 to 11. And everybody that calls about the house, tell them the appointment is at 10 o'clock. Why? Because we want 50 people freaking out that, oh my God, all these people want to buy this house. I got to get my offer in now.
Competition is
Competition and scarcity when selling is very, very valuable.
Yes.
And that's the other reason you want the house to be in mint condition. One thing I didn't mention up here on having the house ready is, my wife's words for it are Q-tip clean.
Yeah.
It's not contractor clean. It's not investor clean. It's Q-tip clean. And that makes such a huge difference to a retail buyer.
Okay? I know I do the sock test. I put my socks on, and if I can skate across the entire room, I know that it's in good shape.
Okay, well, that's
if I have nothing on my socks after that, I know it's in really good shape.
Okay. So definitely get the word out. Now, you may want to use a real estate agent to list the property. We recommend that you consider a flat fee listing as opposed to a traditional full price listing, and you can save half the commission.
Yeah.
That means you're going to have to take the buyer calls, but in our market you can get a flat fee listing anywhere between $200 and $500. And if you end up finding your own buyer, that's all you pay in commission. If a buyer's agent brings a buyer to you, well, then you're going to pay a 3% commission in addition to the flat listing fee. But that's a lot less expensive than paying a full price listing.
Yes.
So that's number 2. Number 3, now offers start coming in. What do I do? Well, I've watched too many investors take the first offer that comes in and just sign it and accept it, and then find out 15, 20, 30, 40 days later they weren't qualified to buy the property.
That's a big mistake.
And also, depending on how long your rehab took, did you take a contract too soon? Right now, FHA requires that the existing title holder be on title at least 90 days before they take a contract, which means you can't sign a contract with an FHA buyer until day 91. So if you end up listing your property in the MLS and you've renovated in less than 90 days, you might start your listing with cash and conventional buyers only. You don't even want to take an FHA offer because you can't process it for maybe another month. You know, if you get if you rehabbed it in 30 days and it's ready for market, why would you want to take a contract that you can't even start the process for another 2 months? It's 2 months of holding costs you don't necessarily need to incur. And with FHA, you can take a non-refundable deposit, and there's other fees that cannot be passed on to the buyer. And whenever possible, I prefer the buyer to pay all the closing costs, not just some of them, because that obviously reduces our expenses, increases our profits. Does it work every time? Absolutely not. but there's nothing wrong with asking the buyer to pay all the closing costs. So we have to analyze our offers. So what is it we want to analyze?
Well, now, we talked about
for?
this. So we talked about what's the difference between a pre-approval letter and a pre-qualification letter, because we're looking for qualified buyers, and that's one of the things we're going to look for when a realtor brings us a buyer. And we just had this conversation the other day. What's the difference? Let everyone know, what's the difference between a pre-approval and a pre-qual?
Okay, well, pre-qualification means that somebody has submitted their credit information to a lender and has been examined, and it looks like they would qualify if a property will qualify. Pre-approval means, you know, this is a letter that says if you send us your information and we like it,
right,
we'll approve you. But it doesn't even mean you've been approved for anything yet. Now, we buy a lot of stuff, and because we pay cash, or sometimes we'll work with a private lender, we'll use an approval letter that is subject to an appraisal.
Right.
And that'll be our only, you know, disclaimer. But if the property appraises, that we have the funds available. So there's a variety of things that are going to happen when you receive an offer. Now, if you receive an offer through an agent, they're just going to want you to sign it right now. Why? Because they're trying to lock in a commission, and I understand and appreciate that. But when I look at accepting that offer, I want to know it's a good deal. I want the buyer to be successful. So I may want to take a look at their credit myself.
Yeah.
Or I may want to see that they have a proof of funds if they're offering me cash. I want to make sure it's not some investor trying to flip a contract
Right.
that doesn't have the wherewithal to perform. When I'm looking to sell a property, that's my goal. I'm not dilly-dallying with it. I want to get it sold.
Sometimes we'll actually call the loan originator or the mortgage broker just to
You bet.
get a background on the buyer and see how they feel with what their qualification is.
Right, and you know, one of the things that our QuickStart students typically do is we have an addendum in the QuickStart program, as you know, which allows you to name the closing agent, the title company. It also indicates that as soon as one of the contingencies expires, it's done.
Right.
It says when you do your inspection, you get to come back for one more bite at the apple, bring us the repair list. If we agree to it all, that's it. Once we fix this stuff, there's nothing else that we're going to fix for you.
Right.
Additionally, once all the contingencies have been met, that earnest money deposit is now non-refundable. So, you know, once you've gotten an approval on your mortgage, if the lender decides to back out, that's not our problem. Even to the point of, and this is really important when you're analyzing your offers, is let's say somebody says they're going to close in 30 days. Great. That means I have one more month of holding costs. Very often, somebody will come back and say, well, oh, I need another 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Well, because of our addendum, we're going to collect $100 to $150 a day as an extension fee in advance.
Right.
So you want to be able to protect yourself. That's one of the reasons with the QuickStart program, you've got a lot of extra tools in there to help actually save you money when people cause delays.
And we'll talk about where you can look up more information on QuickStart at the end of the video.
Let's see, number 4, we definitely have to manage certain things. Just as we've managed, you know, the purchase process, the closing process, on the acquisition side, we've managed the renovation process. We have to manage this process too. It's really important. And what do we have to manage? We have to manage basically 2 things. Thing 1 is time frames. Okay, make sure that offer includes the inspection time frame. Okay, and it's got to be done within that amount of time. How soon do they have to apply for a mortgage? And if they get declined for the mortgage, how soon do they have to reapply? Okay, and are we willing to be the lender of last resort, which in some cases we are. So all of those timeframes need to be managed and met. If there are appraisals, anything else that needs to be done where there's a time frame involved, including scheduling the closing. So when you manage those time frames, you've also got to manage expectations. You have to let your buyer know, and not just your buyer's agent. This is a huge mistake. People think, oh, I'll just call the agent. Well, that agent could be representing 30 different buyers at the same time. You are a minor priority to them. Granted, they're going to get a commission, but their job in their own mind many times is done once that contract is signed, and then it's up to the buyer, seller, and the title company to get everything else done. So I'm very sensitive to making sure that the agent knows what's going on, but I want to have direct communication with the buyer on the other end, because they're usually the one that's got to coordinate the appraisal and the inspection, and even if they want to have work done to the house, anything that they want to get estimates on or anything else, well, they need to get that done within the time frames we've agreed to contractually. Okay, that purchase and sale agreement is a contract. It's a legal binding agreement. So we want to make sure everybody understands what their rights, roles, and responsibilities are. So managing time frames and expectations. Okay, I expect them to live up to their end of the bargain, just as I intend to live up to our end of the bargain. Okay? And last but not least, communication.
Yes.
Always such a big one, because communication equals cashed checks. That's really what it boils down to. And you know, in a closing, just like on the buying side, you've got a lot of different parties involved. On the selling side, sometimes there's even more parties involved, especially when a commercial lender or bank is involved.
Yeah.
Because they have huge requirements. You know,
it's like signing your life away.
Yeah. Somebody I was just talking to earlier, you know, they said, you know, I'm working with this lender to buy my first house, and every day there's another request, another requirement, more information. When does it stop?
When you purchase the house.
Right. Yeah. When you finally done through the closing, it's done. But you know, we see this more and more, even from the perspective of lenders starting to request information they've never requested before.
Yes, we're running into some situations on that currently with houses we're selling.
Yeah, more and more they want to know about, you know, how long has the owner been on title?
Yeah.
How much did they pay for the property when they bought it? How much repair dollars went into it?
Yep.
None of this stuff really relates to the value of a property, and to me, they're fishing for information that shouldn't even be theirs. But hey,
found out we were supposed to close this week with the buyer. They're good to go. They have the commitment from the lender, but the lender wants to go back and determine what the value of the property was when she placed it into the land trust. That just came up. I've never heard of such a thing.
and
that's a first.
With another of our trust clients earlier this week. So, you know, it's just stuff happens.
Yep.
And that's why communications is so very important.
Yes.
So there you have it. Curb appeal and staging. Make sure the house is ready. Let the world know. You got to advertise. Analyze the offers before making an acceptance. You know, we sold a house up in New York before we moved to Florida, and we had 3 offers that were great offers, and we didn't take the highest offer. We took the offer that was going to give us the least amount of headache.
Right, the most qualified.
They were by far the most qualified buyer. We could have made potentially $50,000 more, but that offer had so many contingencies in it.
Right.
I just didn't want to go through the headache, and if it didn't close, I could have lost a buyer who had cash and no contingencies. So there you have it.
It must be a seller calling.
There you go.
And then number 4, manage time frame and expectations.
Right.
And 5, communication.
There you go. Keep everybody informed throughout the process so that you do get to the closing table, get the check, and get it deposited.
And that's what we're going to be talking about next week, is the top 5 mistakes to avoid when closing. So when you're at the closing and you're ready to get your paycheck.
That's right. And we all want to get that.
That's our favorite part. When we get the paycheck. I
kind of like it all. I love the business.
I love it all too, but I have a bias towards that part.
I guess.
So that's it for today, guys. This is all going to be up on my blog page at Carrie's Corner for all of the notes. And where can they find you, Augie?
CreatingWealthUSA.com. You can sign up for our complimentary newsletter, the Intellectual Capital Report. They can get a copy of my book, The Financial Freedom Formula. And we have some other benefits up there for you. We've got some tools and tips and strategies that you can look up in our resources page. So
now, we talked about QuickStart a lot. Where can they find more information about the QuickStart program?
Well, they can find more information. Also, just so people know, coming up in October is our Investor QuickStart Intensive, which is a phenomenal event.
My favorite.
Yeah, it's the last weekend in October.
Yes.
And you'll want to keep an eye out for information on that.
Yep.
Because that always sells out, and it's probably our greatest event of the year.
Agreed. Okay, guys. So that's it for today. If you or anyone you know is interested in selling their house, you can contact me at Carrie Buys Houses. And we'll see you next week.
Look forward to it.
Thank you.
Happy investing.